Hi, I'm Shana Strauch Schick, and I teach in Drisha Summer College. So Parashat Bo continues where the previous parsha left off, describing the remainder of the 10 plagues which ultimately led to Paro ceding to Moshe's request to let the children of Israel go worship their God in the desert. A question that's always bothered me was the relationship of the 10 plagues to each other. The plagues seem very random, not much of a relationship to one another. So how can we understand this group of seemingly random plagues? And what made them ultimately Paro to grant the Jewish people their freedom? So various commentators throughout the ages have tried to explain the internal logic and relationship of the 10 plagues to each other. One can be found in the 7th century Midrashic collection known as the Tanhuma, which explains how the 10 plagues actually correlate to the way that a human king wages war against a rebelling enemy. There it states, "B'taksis melech basar v'dam hevi hakadosh baruch hu alehem et hamako." Through the tactics of the human king, God brought the 10 plagues. Melech basar v'dam kivan shemedina maratet alav ma'useh mishlech ligionot v'hi mekivim alehem. When a state rebels against a human king, what does he do? He sends his legions and besieges it. The Tanhuma then explains how each one of the 10 plagues correspond to each step in a besiegement. So first, a besieging army will close up the water supply, which corresponds to blood. They will then make loud noises, which corresponds to the frogs. They will then shoot arrows, which corresponds to lice. Then they will send in their army, which corresponds to wild animals. The next stage in the battle is what the Tanhuma calls Dor Masiot, which is a Greek mass seizure of people regardless of guilt or innocence, which corresponds to a Dever plague. The human king will then throw tar on the besieged enemy, which corresponds to Shechin or boils. They will then throw rocks from a catapult, which corresponds to Barad, hail. They then send in a large army corresponding to locusts. They will imprison the people, corresponding to Choshek, darkness, and finally, they capture and kill the important people therein, which the Tanhuma explains corresponds to death of the firstborn sons. So, far from being a random assortment of punishments, the 10 plagues are rather understood by the Tanhuma to be very intimately and purposely connected to each other. Another explanation is found in the medieval commentary of Rashi, who explains that at least some of the plagues reflect a midah keneged midah, measure for measure type of approach. Though admittedly he only describes 2 of the plagues. So the first one is blood, where Rashi explains as resulting from the fact that the Egyptians worshipped the Nile, and so God first punished their form of worship, their God. And finally, in the last plague, death of the firstborn, Rashi explains that why were the firstborns of the slaves also killed? He explains, Sha'avhim hayu mishabdim behem usmechin b'tzaratam. They too rejoiced in Israel's enslavement, and therefore they're worthy of punishment. And Rashi there also explains why were the firstborn animals killed? Because also the Egyptians worshipped them, and again, God wanted to first punish their God. One final approach is found in the medieval commentary of Ibn Ezra. And he explains how the Makot demonstrate a progression, going from elements that stem from the lower world to those that stem from the upper, loftier world. And he alludes to something which he talks about very often in his commentary on the book of Exodus, which is that Paro and the Egyptians believed in God. He actually says they were on the order of Hindus during medieval times who did not eat anything that came from animals, that were vegans. And he explains that while Pharaoh believed in God, he did not believe in the God of Israel. And so the plague started from elements that come from the lower world, water, dust, and sand, by which Pharaoh was able to attribute them to astrological phenomena. And then as Moshe became more involved and bringing elements from the upper world, does Pharaoh cave in more and more, first allowing just the men to go and worship, then allowing animals to be brought, until finally the last plague stemming from the upper world alone ultimately leads to his realizing the God of Israel, who chooses Israel as a chosen nation. And in that way, the goal of the plagues has been realized, to both free the children of Israel and make God's name known in the world. Shabbat Shalom.